So today I am with
Eric Boll.
from Pillar to Post Inspections, and we work together for home buyers that are from out of state or international clients, investors that wants to invest in property here in Virginia. This is a wealth of information here, and so I'm going to let him talk about what he does for international and national relocators if they want to buy the property before they actually get here.
Hello, my name is Eric Boll, and as Wanda indicated, I'm a Pillar Post home inspector's inspector, and I do work quite a bit with buyers who are not at the home inspection and often overseas. And so that gets to be a more challenging environment to do both the home buying process and to conduct a home inspection. Because normally we have the buyer present during the home inspection. In the case of somebody who's overseas or is in another city around the country, they can't be there for the home inspection. So we have to take extra measures to make certain that the findings are conveyed to the home buyer, so that they don't just get a home inspection report thrown over the wall at them.
Right, and that's where you and I come into place.
Yeah.
And we kind of take over and we'll do the inspection together. And then you send them a report, correct?
Yes, so at the end of the inspection, we will generate a full report, so a PDF type file with pictures in the report associated with the comments. And then that will get sent to the home buyer. In the case of a home buyer who's not present at the inspection, I will arrange to get on the phone to go over all the findings with the home buyer, so that they almost feel like they were at the inspection even though they weren't. I used to be an applications engineer in the semiconductor industry, so that hand-holding is very important. A home inspection report can look kind of scary if you just simply look at it and weren't there to talk about what was seen. Whereas once we get on the phone and spend an hour and a half going over all the points and answering questions and reviewing the findings and the context of the findings, that really helps the buyer who's not present understand what was found, the implications thereof, and that the buyer, in conjunction with the buyer's agent, can make a much more informed decision on how to proceed.
That's very cool, very cool. And why is it so important to get a home inspection? What is the findings that scares you the most that you find in these homes?
Well, one is asked, what are the findings that scare me the most? A little bit of background. I tend to buy houses that are in distressed conditions, so not much scares me. So fortunately, with my background, when we're doing a home inspection, even some of the more crazy things we see can just be talked about in a fairly straightforward way. But, it is important to have a home inspection because, a lot of people, first of all, they don't necessarily have the ability to evaluate or see everything in a home that, could be of significance to the ownership or the cost of ownership. And we typically, I can go over the process of what we do as a home inspector.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please do.
So, when we get to the house, the front of the house, the first thing we're going to do is, take a look at, just how the house is sitting on the lot. We don't see too many houses here in Northern Virginia which are leaning, fortunately. But, we then, take a look at the landscaping, make certain the landscaping is graded properly so the water flows away from the house. And then we walk around the house and look at the exterior, look at the condition of the finishing, the siding, the windows, the sealing of the joints between different materials on the outside. Wherever there's a joint, water can get in. That all has to be sealed. If there's wood siding or materials that tend to weather, we note that. And we do that around the entire house. And roof is important to look at. In my case, I take a look at the roof with a pair of binoculars, and we were looking to, for missing shingles, damaged shingles, indications of age. Typically, which would be shingles curled up or starting to separate from the other shingles. A lot of wear at the edges of the shingles. And also any penetrations through the roof. We want to take a look to make certain that those penetrations are not deteriorated, because wherever there's a deterioration or a possible hole or whatever at the roof, water can work its way in. So the roof's fairly important. We have a lot of homes here in Northern Virginia which are 2-3 stories above grade and very steep roofs, so you really can't get up on a roof unless you have special equipment, harnesses, etc. Another area that we take a look at are decks. Decks are one of the number one causes of injuries, especially old decks that have deteriorated or not installed to current standards. And so we take a good hard look at decks, make certain that there's no obvious bad connections, rot, deterioration, the railings are in good shape, whether the construction's up to current standards, etc. So that's what we do on the outside of the house. And of course, if we see any trees that are deteriorated and possibly dead or whatever, we'll note that too. The home inspector is required to note anything they see that's a potential safety hazard, even if it's outside the scope of the inspection.
And what about the M word?
The M word. So,
Mold.
well, the M word, a mold word. Like a lot of words in the English language, it's a 4-letter word, and we try not to use that word in a home inspection. And a lot of people do ask about mold in homes, and that is one of the things we look for indications of. So when we get into the inside of the house, especially in the basement, that's a very common area to see signs of water entry. And that water entry can be due to, the landscaping not being properly graded away from the house, so the water's pooling at the house. It's often due to downspouts and sump pumps discharging at the foundation, and the water comes back in through the foundation, especially older foundations, which are concrete block instead of poured concrete. And so the water will always find a way in if there's a lot of water at the foundation. And then it will get into the wall. If you have a finished basement, the walls can get wet. And we'll look for any indication in the basements, etc., of dark areas and staining, which could be indicative of mold. And also probe for moisture in those key areas too. And that's just about the basement. We look for any indications of mold and water leaks anywhere else in the house also during the inspection.
Very good. And when I did my class with you on radon, it was really interesting to hear that Ashburn had such high levels of radon. Radon is not something that people are always aware of or are testing for. And tell us a little bit about Virginia in a whole and radon.
So radon is a radioactive gas, and it comes up out of the ground, and it is everywhere in the environment. And in areas where you have mountainous regions or hilly regions, or like here in Virginia, where we have the remnants of old mountain ranges, you will have bedrock and rock that contains uranium. And as many of you are aware, uranium is radioactive. And those radioactive elements decay over time through a succession of different elements, which are all radioactive, and ultimately they wind up becoming a lead. But one of those intermediate elements that is there in what they call the decay chain is radon. And radon is a radioactive gas, and it's in the same family of gases such as helium, neon, krypton, and argon. And yes, it's quite interesting. It's considered one of the noble gases, but it is radioactive. And it will come up out of the ground. And it comes up out of the ground everywhere, where you tend to have bedrock closer to the surface, or areas like the Canadian Shield, where the bedrock and the granites are right up at the surface. You will have higher levels of radon. And here in Northern Virginia, we have different areas where the potential for radon being above the recommended mitigation level can be higher than other areas. And the EPA many years ago did a survey for radon potential around the country, and you can actually get radon potential maps. And so there are radon potential maps for Northern Virginia, the different counties, And you'll see even within a county, there's different areas within a county where there's a lower likelihood or a higher likelihood of a house with a radon above the recommended level to have it remediated. And my experience, the last time I did a survey of this with all of our tests, is Ashburn and then through into Great Falls, about 40% of the homes will come in with radon above what they call 4 picocures per liter, which is the level at which the EPA recommends you put in the mitigation system.
Okay.
Right here in Herndon, probably right through where we are sitting, is also another area which tends to have a higher probability of radon in homes. And so there's, and then you'll have other areas in Northern Virginia down along the Potomac River in Alexandria, etc., where you've got more riverbed type soils, etc., and there'll be a lower probability of radon. So on average in Northern Virginia, about 25% of the homes will test for radon at 4.0 or higher.
Wow.
Okay. And
that's interesting.
It's quite interesting, actually. Yeah.
And people don't always know that they have to test for radon. How would they know if they bought a home that we need to test for radon? Was that something that you suggest in your inspection report? So radon, it can be tested for at the time of the contract, of the offer to purchase, and home inspectors, many of them do offer radon testing. In the case of a home purchase, that test has to be done fairly quickly, and so it's typically a 2-day test, and you can put it into the contract or the offer to have a radon test done, right, to see if it's above the recommended mitigation level. You can also, as a homeowner, you can also buy radon test kits from the big box stores or the Virginia Department of Health, and then you can do the radon test at your own convenience. Those tests are a lot less expensive, but they can take quite a bit longer to get the results. Whereas in the case of the radon test done by a home inspector, you'll generally get the results the same day that the test is, the equipment is picked up. That's good to know.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, it's important because speed's of the essence.
Yes.
in the case of a contract.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on this rainy day in Virginia.
Well, on rainy days in Virginia in the wintertime, we're more likely to have radon levels a lot higher than typical in the drier months of the year. So
the water has something to do with it?
It does have something to do with it, yes.
Oh.
So it's a good day to talk about radon. Thank you very much, Wanda. I really appreciate you having me here today.
Thank you. And I will put all his details in the description below and also mine. If you have any questions about radon testing, having an inspection done at your home, or buying a home from if you are international or even national relocation, please give either one of us a call and we will assist you in that process.